post game. Vikings 23, Titans 13. Can we just petition right now to have the Vikings join the AFC South? That sure would be nice, wouldn't it? They're 4-0 against the South this year. Probably played their best game against the best team, ostensibly, in this terrible, terrible division, beating the Texans easily earlier this season. Now 3 in a row where they haven't looked their best, but they have certainly played well enough to win. They did it against the Colts. Last week against Jacksonville was probably the ultimate example of playing just well enough to win, beating Jacksonville 12-7. Oh, by the way, Jacksonville gives up, 52 today? I can't remember what the final score was, but they gave up touchdowns on their first 7 possessions against the Lions today, which last time I checked is not good. So they beat Jacksonville 12-7 last week. They beat the Colts 23-13 this week. Not so much an ugly game. Last week was ugly. This one was a little bit more business-like, workman-like. It was a little weird, too, because for as much as I felt like the Vikings had Tennessee at arm's length pretty much all game, I never felt like they were threatened seriously, but for however much I felt like they had them at arm's length, they didn't quite put them away like you might have wanted them to. They didn't get that one extra score, sustain that one extra possession, do the one thing defensively necessarily to make you say, okay, this game is not just in control, but out of reach for Tennessee. But we're not going to quibble over all of the details. This is an 8-2 team now, an 8-2 team that, let's go back to the start of the season. We didn't think this was going to be a very good team. This was supposed to be a bridge year to J.J. McCarthy. This was just supposed to be, hey, let's see what else is going to happen. They brought in some defensive pieces, which I thought, hey, that's going to make them competitive at least. This defense, though, has been the story. And, yeah, I know Will Levis had a 98-yard touchdown pass. That's a blemish on everything that happened today. But, again, they only gave up 13 points. They get Levis on the ground a whole bunch. They confuse him. They do all the things they need to do to win this game again. So, again, the glory split a little bit, I'd say, in this game. I thought Sam Darnold, especially in the first half, had a real good bounce-back game from last week. He was far more efficient, far more careful with the football. Yes, he fumbled, lost a fumble, but didn't throw an interception in this game. Much better decisions, made some plays with his feet, extended some drives with his feet, both throwing the ball and running the ball, especially early in the game. First half was really sharp. Third quarter was okay. He didn't kind of do that thing where he puts it out of reach, but I thought Sam was pretty good in this game, certainly better than he has been in the past couple weeks. So you got that going for you. Tennessee. So here's the thing. We hosted. It's my middle child's eighth birthday today. We hosted her and 7 friends last night for a birthday party at our house. 5 of the 7 friends slept over. This was her first sleepover. A lot of their first sleepovers too. It's the second grade, so kind of first sleepover, kind of those jitters. We had a lot of big energy in the house. The organization was not always great. We were bouncing around all over the place. It was kind of this, that, the other thing. But in the end, everybody had a good time. Everybody had fun. Everybody slept at least a reasonable amount. Everybody went home safe, saying with some good first sleepover stories, stuff like that. These second graders were more organized than the Tennessee Titans were in a lot of cases. I know the Titans griped about a lot of things. I know they complained about a lot of things, but man, they were not an organized team. They were not an organized bunch in this game. They were just sloppy. They were just kind of a mess. All these pre-snap penalties, 68 for Tennessee. I think he had at least 3 of those silly, so basically the in vogue penalty this year. You're not lined up far enough on the line of scrimmage as a pass blocker. You're not far enough up. That's the in vogue penalty this year. He got like 3 of those, killed like one big play that would have been a touchdown, killed another nice nice gain as they would have been going forward. Finally, they benched the guy after his third one. They're like, dude, you got to stop doing this. He's like, I don't know if he's coached to do that. I don't know what is the deal, but they're hitting guys late. They're just not a very disciplined team. And their coach, I don't know, maybe they get it from the coach. Let's watch this. This was after, again, okay, the Vikings definitely benefited from some calls. I'm not saying they didn't. Maybe taking your emotional cues from a coach who basically had the body language of an upset fan the whole game. He's just over there like exasperated. He's like, what else is going to go against us? Well, maybe tell 68 to get up on the offensive line of scrimmage. That would be a thing. I thought the call on Jefferson where they extended the drive on they get the illegal contact, that was kind of a bad call. The Addison play that I just showed you, that could have gone either way. I didn't think it was a great call. I don't quite know what these defensive backs are supposed to do. They're trying to break up a pass, but they have been calling that he was defenseless. It was close to the head and neck. It's a close one. It's absolutely obviously a huge play in the game because it's a fourth down play. The Vikings score right after that to make it, I think, 13-3. Parker Romo misses an extra point. That's how you know he's a Vikings kicker. He misses an extra point, but he did make a field goal later to make you feel a little bit better about that. And he made his other 2 extra points. So the Titans just sloppy. Titans were not a well-run, well-oiled team. Like I said, I think the second graders, the by and large 8-year-olds, some of them probably still 7, they were a little bit more organized in the sleepover that we hosted. They also fared better, our second grader and her friends, I think, than the announcers. That crew was awful. I mean, right from the start, I think they called Josh Metellus Josh Metellus early on. I heard that. They were constantly getting things wrong. My favorite was when the Vikings were back to receive a punt, and I don't know if it was the analyst or the play-by-play guy, probably the play-by-play guy, says Addison calls for the fair catch. First of all, Jordan Addison was not back there. It was Brandon Powell. Second of all, Brandon Powell returned the punt. He did not call fair catch. So you had the guy wrong and you had the action wrong. Aside from that, you were spot on. So they got the E squad, the D squad. I don't know how far down the pecking order the CBS announcing crew was, but that was not the best of the bunch. Now you go from here to play the Bears. Now I think you got some concerns here. We're going to run through some questions. A lot of good questions from Blue Sky. Been enjoying. No offense to the folks watching on Twitter right now, but I've been getting a lot of good interaction, a lot of fun on Blue Sky lately. Just joined like a week ago, but it seems like that's where a lot of the conversation is headed right now. He says, Skull Vike says, secondary is becoming a big concern. You know, I think they got caught in a couple ugly blitzes. The 98-yard pass was kind of everything went right for Tennessee. They got, I don't know if it was a 6 or 7 man, but it was basically almost a zero blitz. Metellus or Metellus, however you want to call him, if you're a CBS announcer, Metellus, little late getting over, took a weird route, started backpedaling. Next thing you know, it's a 98 touchdown. So that's a problem. I thought by and large they covered pretty well. They only gave up 13 points. When you give up those big plays, yeah, there's the one that was called back. It would have been more. Titans would have been closer if not for the one that was called back by one of the several penalties on 68. I get that was a problem, but overall, I think the secondary is still holding up pretty well. That's not high on my list of concerns right now. 3-Putt wants to know, why didn't they score more? And that's fair. I thought there was plenty of opportunity there to score more on this Titans defense. It's not a great Titans defense. I thought they got pushed around a little bit on the line of scrimmage in some cases. The protection got better, kind of more in those middle 2 quarters, but they started to do some damage. But Darnold took some hits in making his throws today, so I thought that was impressive on his part. I think they didn't score more just because little bit of lack of execution. I think Darnold missed some throws. I'm not a lip reader, and I haven't heard KOC do his whole post-game presser yet, but I think he said to Darnold a couple times, or like he was exasperated with Darnold a couple times because he missed missed a couple things that he made some throws, like some throwaways, or tried to hit some stuff on the sideline where I think KOC is saying, hey, that guy was wide open. This guy over here, your read's got to take you there before you lock on over here. So I think there's still some of those teachable moments, even though the numbers by and large for Donald were pretty good. I think it was 20 of 32, almost 250, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, over 100 passer rating. He was much better, but I think he also missed a few plays. They didn't quite get it clicking in the running game. Didn't get it going at all today. And that was a big part of the problem, too. Humany said the running game, obviously, but where is it not working specifically? Offensive line struggling. Jones clearly not healthy, but looks like he's running hard. Yeah, I can't put my finger on it. The running game was a lot more dynamic earlier in the year. They did make a swap on the offensive line today. Dalton Reisner came in, started this game. Ed Ingram out. Dalton Reisner, generally a better pass blocker than a run blocker. Ed Ingram, generally a better run blocker than pass blocker. The way Andrew Kramer, my coworker, has explained it is Ed Ingram makes a lot of mistakes, but when it clicks, his best plays will be better than Dalton Reisner's best plays. His worst plays will probably be worse than Dalton Reisner's worst plays. Dalton Reisner probably gives you a little bit more steadiness, but not entirely spectacular, and he's not really going to move anybody in the run game. And I wonder if they felt that a little bit today, even though we all love to pile on Ed Ingram and his foibles. So maybe that switch in offensive line, probably the Aaron Jones injury. I don't feel like Cam Akers has given them a ton. He was okay, made some decent runs. Disappointing year from Ty Chandler this year. I just don't feel like he's given them a whole lot of juice either. Kind of frustrating that they can't find a running back. They can't find a young running back. You've seen a lot of these teams, they draft a guy in the 5th round. Next thing you know, he's in the starting lineup. He's good. They have not found that here. So I think it's a little bit of everything. I think the running game has, by and large, been better this year. I think the running yards per game was up around 120, 125 coming in the game, but it was not clicking today. That was another part of the reason why they just didn't score more in this game. A couple more questions. Mark asking if the non-existence of the running game is a KOC issue, a lack of creativity. I don't know. I think KOC's been more committed to it this year, but when it's 3rd and 1, I almost just would rather them not run the ball because it's not been successful this season. So I think they've got some problems there. They got some stuff to figure out. It's not been a fun thing to see. Last question. Omelet says, Bears more dangerous now with a new offensive coordinator? It's a good question. That's the opponent next week. Bears were much better today. Probably should have beaten the Packers. Lost 20-19. Had a field goal blocked after giving up a late touchdown to Green Bay. That will be a bigger test next week than it was before the Bears fired their offensive coordinator. So that could be, a Bears team that's a little bit more frisky, although the Bears now 4-6. Probably demoralized a little bit from the result today, understanding they're now, 3 games back of anybody else in the division, 4 games back of the Vikings. So I still think the Vikings go into that game with a good chance to win and should have a good plan against another young quarterback, Caleb Williams for Brian Flores to torment. But by and large, I thought they played okay today. They played well enough to win. They're going to have to start playing better at a certain point this season. I don't know if it has to start in the Bears game. I think they have to be sharper, though. They still had some silly turnovers. Yeah, Darnold got labeled with the one that was the pitch. The pitch was a turnover. So that's not so much his fault, but some sloppiness, some uncharacteristic stuff that they just have to clean up against better teams because the schedule is going to get tougher, right? Like they've picked a good time to be kind of mediocre because they've still been able to win these games. And I do think that's the mark of a good team. I think KOC made that point last week, but at a certain point, you're going to have to start playing better if you expect to beat better teams. And they're going to start facing better teams. After the Chicago game, you got Arizona. Arizona's playing pretty well. After that, Atlanta's playing pretty well. You get to play Detroit again in there. You got to play Green Bay in there again. So you've got Seattle in there. Like the opponents, the quality is going to get better. Can you squeeze out 2, 3, 4 more wins this season playing better? You've only got 7 opportunities left. Can you win 3 or 4 more? Can you be in the division race? Can you at least lock down a wild card? I think this team can. I think they've banked enough wins, banked enough equity to think that they'll do that. But they do have to play better at a certain point. I'm sure we'll dissect this even more on tomorrow's Daily Delivery podcast with Patrick Royce. I'm sure the Access Vikings guys are going to do one tonight as well, so listen to that wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening to this post game. I'll talk to you again later.